Space Marine 2 is just a straight shot of testosterone in a video game. The game is set in the epic Warhammer 40k universe where you're controlling Titus in a story that goes through war against the Horde-like Tyranid, alien creatures, and some other surprise enemies I'm not going to spoil for you guys. I've been looking forward to this one for a while now, and I'm going to be honest, it did not disappoint, but I'm also going to go out and say that it is far from perfect. If you're new to the channel and like reviews as well as other gaming content, subscribe, help us out, and see more videos like this. I didn't get a code here, and I did pay the extra money to play early, which is a thing that I'm honestly growing to hate in games, but I'll talk release later in the review. I'll start with the campaign. Space Marine 2 has you controlling Titus again, who I guess was the same from the first game. I haven't really played the original, and honestly, I was just able to understand the story completely fine, by the way, so don't feel like you're compelled to play that first one before getting this one. The Space Marines are these hulking giants in armor. Think like a mix of Gears of War guys and the Master Chief. I mean, you're literally towering over other humans in this game. You've got a lot of similarities here, but I think Warhammer's been around longer than those games, so I'm assuming they kind of stole it from them. The intro mission has you playing in the Death Watch, which is basically suicide mission for you guys. You're tasked with deploying a virus to help stop the Tyranid Hive, which are the enemies that you're facing off against. Once you complete the epic introductory mission, you're reborn as an Ultramarine wearing that awesome blue armor. Here, during the story, you're going to be going planet to planet as you're literally a part of a war that's a lot bigger than you. The environments and the planets are awesome spectacles. The game loves to make you feel so huge as this badass Space Marine, but then you also just feel so small within this conflict, showing just how much is going on with just World War Z style invasions of just hordes and hordes of aliens everywhere, shots being fired, tanks that are rolling. It's just so much going on in these missions. It's awesome. The enemies that you face are basically like aliens. I mean, there's different types with armor, guns, and basic type of swarmer things. You've got some surprise enemies that I mentioned again near the end. Not going to mention just what they are. I don't want to spoil this one. But I will say that every time I felt a little bored or fatigued from the enemies, the game did switch it up with a different type, a gimmick, some kind of boss looking bat things. I mean, there's a rat level, and there's even a cloaked Tyranid that kind of goes invisible and tries to attack you. You've got pretty good level pacing with I think the last one kind of stretching for a while. It feels like they almost took 2 missions and combined it into one. And I was able to complete the campaign in 8-ish hours on the normal difficulty. I didn't really struggle too much. I did get overwhelmed a little bit and downed here and there, but it wasn't anything crazy. If you are downed, your allies, which are AI, do a pretty good job of picking you up. But again, the AI in this game is just really, really crappy, just like in most games. They're going to be doing a little bit of damage, but overall, I mean, they'll just get a kill here and there and just kind of be in your way. They don't really do much. I really did enjoy my time with the campaign, and I just wish it was a little bit longer. It did seem to kind of just rush at the end and end, but there is kind of an extension to the campaign in the PvE mode that I'll talk about later on. The game does feel a little dated with these weird elevator loading screens, but I mean, it's really nothing that serious. I mean, nowadays everyone's just going through little cracks in walls to load into new areas, and this one, brought back the elevators. The spectacles that the campaign is just showing you are again just super awesome, and I mean, if the goal here is to make you feel like a badass that's going through hordes and hordes of enemies, I think the game does that, and it's just a lot of fun to do so. I did play the campaign solo, so again, I had those crappy AI allies, but if you've got a couple friends, you can invite them and play with 3, which I highly recommend. Next is going to be the gameplay. Here's the thing, the gameplay in Space Marine does such a good job keeping you on your toes and engaged with the system that I think is simple, but it's also a little complicated at the same time. On the surface, it feels like just a straight horde mode. You've got this old school Xbox 360 style game, but I think it's a lot more than that. Besides your main weapon, you've got a sidearm that you could change out honestly just constantly. There are drops of new weapons everywhere. You've even got a melee weapon for close range, which you're going to spend a lot of time doing, thanks to how the enemies just surround you and just tear into you. Combat is almost a perfect blend of a little bit of range and a little bit of close range combat, where you're picking off ranged enemies with your guns and, shooting at whatever gets near you, and then mixing it up with some melees and taking down the different drones that swarm you. It's super easy to get overwhelmed, but it's honestly really, really fun and rewarding. You've got a counter button, which is like the L1 or LB button, where you'll catch an enemy that's attacking you and smash it into the ground or gut it. When the screen basically flashes blue, that's when you're able to do it. And then sometimes the screen will flash red, and if it flashes red, that means you can't really counter, you gotta dodge. On top of that, there's these God of War style executions that I think were just awesome, and there's enough of them to where it's not really repetitive. Going back to the whole dodge mechanic, sometimes you can perfect dodge or even just like hit them with a heavy attack and then squeeze the right trigger. It zooms in, it does like this cowboy style gunshot that does extra damage. Awesome. On top of that, I did mention melee has those different variations, so there are different like combos to use based on what weapon you're using. So there is the knife, a chainsaw type of blade, and eventually, I mean, you get this awesome gravity hammer thing. It's freaking dope. You're able to unleash a heavy attack by just holding the melee button, or you're able to even just combo it into your main attacks. The heavy does give you space from the swarm, so it's really good and it's really useful to use. If you do any of the executions that I mentioned earlier, you're able to regen some of your shields, and on top of that, whatever health you lose, you're able to shoot and kill enemies and get some health back. So dishing damage does give you more health. I think the stims that are around are kind of just like limited as well, so I mean, you're not supposed to abuse those, but the real focus is really healing up during combat and keeping that intensity high. During the story, you're unlocking a rage mode that boosts your health as you kill, and eventually you can get a jetpack which helps you deal death from above while you're hovering, or I mean, you could lock on and just crash down from above. Yeah, again, it's freaking sick, just the epic spectacle of the game and just how it does things. Stuff like this keeps the gameplay fresh and honestly just exhilarating while you're playing. You've got snipers, plasma weapons, these heavy turrets, a plasma sniper, even different grenade types like shock grenades, sticky grenades, and even like a C4 you can detonate. So many different ways to dish out death. Again, it's just a lot of fun, and honestly, all the stuff that I'm saying right now, it doesn't really do it justice. I mean, if you watch gameplay during this review, it's awesome. It feels dope. It feels just as good as it looks. The graphics also do an amazing job of keeping the world pop as well. As a kid, I did have some 40K miniatures. It's just really, really cool to see these miniatures come to life and just see this like epic world. The graphics make the environments, the enemies, and the character models believably badass as well. I ran this one in 4K on my ultra wide. There's no support for that, by the way, but it is coming soon, and I can't complain about the graphics in the game at all. I think the scenery, even the enemy hordes, just the whole spectacle of the wars that go on in these missions, it's just so nice. And I mean, if you're someone that likes to take pics, you know, during a photo mode or whatever, I think this game, you're going to be spending a lot of time taking photographs. I do want to talk about the content that's included in the game because sadly the campaign is a little short. You get different game modes that you could switch into on your home base with things to unlock like cosmetics and perks. You don't have to beat the campaign to play the PvE mode. This one's called the Operations mode, but they do suggest that you do so, and it's because it's kind of like the missions that are happening are also happening while Titus is completing his missions. You've got 6 missions right now that coincide with those main missions. So you're in a squad of 3, and you're basically, again, completing an objective while Titus is basically completing the main story objective. So these are kind of happening hand in hand. It's pretty cool to see it from that perspective, but honestly, it does feel a little repetitive going back into those same environments again. They're going to be expanding this one with more missions as well, which is something that they revealed in the roadmap. Speaking of the roadmap, you could tell that the developers really care about the game and their players. They've already launched the roadmap right now for just year 1 and year 2. Season 1 is going to be coming with things that honestly probably should have just came with the game, so I mean, it's basically just like a small update. You're getting a private PvE lobby, which I'm not sure why that wasn't in there. You're also getting that ultra-wide support, and you're getting a practice arena. Season 2 adds a new mission, a new difficulty, and a new weapon. Season 3 has the most with another new mission, a new enemy type, new PvP maps, prestige, and some kind of battle barge expansion. And on top of that, finally, Season 4, you'll be getting a horde mode, new enemy, and another new weapon. All of that is coming free to anyone that owns the game, but there's also going to be a battle pass for more cosmetics. I can't predict the future here, and I mean, I'll let you guys know maybe in the future if this one's worth it, if it's worth playing for that long, or if it's going to die soon. But honestly, the fact that they've got a roadmap with this much in it early is really just a really good sign of life, and I'm hoping that they can keep this game alive and fun. Within that operations mode, you select a class and you're able to level it and unlock class perks and just these different cosmetics for your character. It is a little grindy with those 6 missions to go through and repeat though. There's a different challenge mode that you can complete in each class that gives you kind of like practice and a little bit of currency for unlocks, but the only way to really level up these classes is to play and beat a mission. You can't fail a mission because you'll barely get any XP and basically just waste your time. I had a little bit of trouble on PC getting into games during the early release weekend unless I went into the quick match mode. I mean, there's just a lot of weird people that sit around and base. I mean, they don't start the mission and I mean, they're eating or God knows what the hell else they're doing, but quick match was the way to go. You are able to play this one with randoms, but I think just like Helldivers 2, it's a lot better with friends. And I'm not fully burnt out in the operations missions yet, but I can see it getting old fast for a lot of people, including myself. The other mode that you could play is the Eternal mode, which is basically the PvP mode. I've got some hours in it, and honestly, it's really, I think, the main thing that's going to keep this game going. It's the main thing that I'm playing so far, unless some friends are on and they want to play some operations. You've got the same classes as the operations mode, and on top of that, you've got game types like Annihilation, which is basically team deathmatch, Seize Ground, which is Hardpoint from Call of Duty, Capture and Control, where you're capturing an objective and you're holding it as it rotates. Think basically like a King of the Hill. The time to kill is pretty fast. I think you can kill people in like 4 or 5 shots. I tried out sniping, kind of worthless. The jetpack class, that's honestly pretty much kind of a lot of fun to really just like jetpack into the air and shoot at people and then drop down. Then you've also got this grapple class that helps you kind of grapple into enemies or grapple in and out of danger, which was, again, pretty fun too. I could see myself getting more hooked on this one as I keep playing. It's pretty fun, and it does give you that adrenaline kick when you outplay others and you're doing well during a game. Unfortunately, though, there are only 3 maps and 3 modes, despite more that's probably coming later. Besides the lack of maps, I said the sniper sucked, and it's because headshots do absolutely nothing. It's like no point in just using the sniper. It's almost useless, and I also feel like melee is kind of worthless because every time I try to melee anyone, the guns just take you down way faster. I had a lot more fun at range holding angles, and I can see PvP being the main thing people play, especially because it's really different and people are kind of figuring it out, figuring out what's good, right? I mean, what's meta. Within PvP, you get different cosmetics, like different armor sets by doing challenges in that mode or operations mode. You're also able to unlock weapon cosmetics, and if you're constantly using that weapon, you're able to level it up, and you can even level up and get new weapons during PvP. Again, like I said, it is fun, it's just a little limited, just like the other modes. And that's the thing with Space Marine 2, you've got 3 modes, each feeling a little limited. I like my time with the game, and I'm going to continue playing. I mean, I'm not done yet with it, I'm not bored of it yet, but I don't know how long I'll be engaged enough to really want to unlock everything. I can definitely see some people bothered by the lack of content not being enough for them. I think if you play story and operations with some friends, you could definitely get 30-ish hours total, if not more, depending on how long you want to grind operations. And if you're a PvP person, you can get even more hours there, especially if you like the mode. For me though, I mean, I work full-time, 25 to 30-ish hours for 60 bucks is great. And again, I enjoyed the campaign a lot, despite it being short. I think operations is a nice extension and it's fun with friends. I think PvP has enough unlocks and a different feeling type of like style for like a PvP mode that keeps me engaged. And I think if you're looking for like 50-ish hours for your money, I think you could possibly get that if you don't get burnt out early. But again, I'm not sure, and it really depends on how this whole roadmap thing goes and how engaging the new content is going to be. Horde mode isn't really coming out for a while, and I honestly feel like that should be one of the first things that they do launch for the game. Besides lack of content, I had some weird hiccups on PC that I hopefully think get ironed out early, especially when the full release is out. I mean, it's a little weird. I had some weird audio cuts that would happen randomly during the campaign. Also, the lock-on camera is completely broken on my PS5 controller. Every time I locked onto anything, it would spin like crazy and almost get me killed half the time. I'll show you guys on screen. It's just nuts. I don't know what the hell was happening. And I mean, speaking of the PS5 controller, if you have one, I 1000% recommend playing with the DualSense because the vibrations that they've added just bring a whole new different level to the game. The adaptive triggers on the crazy weapons that you're using just feel awesome. And I think also the controller does have like a vibration that's like left, right with every step that you take. Besides audio, my Ryzen 7800X 3D was hitting 80 Celsius as soon as I loaded the game for some reason. No other game has done this with my computer, so I don't know what the hell's going on with the CPU processing in this game, so I'm hoping they update and fix it because that is just really, really high for something that's not, I think, that CPU based. My frames around the 70 to like 90 mark. I'm playing this one on a 4080 in 4K. I was using DLSS and I had quality on. I had no major crazy frame drops. I had no major crashing for me at all. I had zero issues up until I had to turn off the crossplay just to be able to get into a PvP match. And again, I paid extra to play early, and I only did this so that I could get the DLC and the season pass. And I mean, low key, I really, really wanted to play on my weekend off versus after work during the week. But I am tired of early access, guys. I really, really think that like if this one didn't come with any of that content, I really wouldn't have bothered paying to play this one early. I only buy deluxe and upgraded editions if I'm into the game and I want whatever DLC is included. I don't buy these deluxe editions to play the freaking game early, guys, and I really hope that this trend just dies off in general and that special editions just go back to passes and cosmetics and DLC. Overall, though, I really enjoyed my time with Space Marine 2. I was playing Wukong earlier, and honestly, I haven't even thought about it since this one came out. I get that old school Xbox 360 feel with the gameplay. I think enemy variety is great with even more to come according to that roadmap. The campaign was just a blast. Even though it's just a little short, I think the graphics, the environments are just jaw-dropping at times. The game is overall just so much fun, and I think it succeeds in putting you in the really, really big shoes of this hulking Space Marine, dropping death into the galaxy for the Emperor. Combat is simple, it's got a little bit of depth to it that makes it badass and rewarding. It's just so cool to be able to catch an enemy mid-strike with that counter system and shove your chainsaw through them. I think the game is a wild ride. There are 3 modes that are at least enough for me, that give me enough content for my buck. But I mean, so far, this is my favorite game of the year. I think it blends Gears of War, Doom, and that World War Z game all into this one crazy ride of a game. My final score for Space Marine 2 is a 9 out of 10, held back by just not enough content in every mode. I wish the campaign was a little longer. I think 6 operations missions are just not enough for launch. And I think 3 maps on PvP, especially for how fun it is just a little lacking. Despite that, I had a great time with the game. I feel like I got my money's worth so far, and I'm excited to see how this roadmap goes and if the game can get even better. If you made it this far, thanks again for watching. I appreciate the support. Drop a like if you liked the video, and help us out by subscribing to the channel for more videos. I'm going to see you guys on the next one. Thanks.